Right, breaking news coming in, and this is in regard to former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, who has been found guilty of 3 charges and has been sentenced to death. Now, it is Sheikh Hasina slamming the court. She's slamming the verdict, calling it biased and politically motivated. She's terming the tribunal rigged, and Hasina's statement is coming about on the death sentence. This is the verdict that reveals brazen intent of the extremists, is the first reaction coming out of Sheikh Hasina, who's here in India. Aditya Rajkal, my colleague, joining us in order to get us details of this. Aditya, take us through the reaction coming about and what repercussions does this really bear as far as Sheikh Hasina is concerned, given the fact that she's not even there in Bangladesh?
Well, yes, Divya, it's the big statement coming at this. Sheikh Hasina has reacted to the trial and the verdict that has just come in at this particular time. We are breaking details of the first statement from the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. It's a 5-page statement that we have just received from Sheikh Hasina. It says, and I quote, "The verdict announced against me have been made by a rigged tribunal established and presided over by an unelected government with no democratic mandate." That's the first big key statement from Sheikh Hasina. She says that they are biased and politically motivated in this distasteful call for death penalty. They reveal the brazen and murderous intent of extremist figures within the interim government to remove Bangladesh's last elected Prime Minister and to nullify the Awami League as a political force. So that's the crux of this entire statement. A rigged system, that's what Sheikh Hasina says, and they want to nullify both democracy and Awami League from Bangladesh entirely. Remember, earlier in an interview, exclusive interview with NDTV, Sheikh Hasina had said that Yunus has a relationship with radicals in Bangladesh. He's given an open, a free run to the radicals, and there are cabinet members with radical thought process, with links with terror groups as well. A big charge coming in from Sheikh Hasina. If I can take you through the statement, it also says that millions of Bangladeshis toiling under the chaotic, violent and socially regressive administration of Mohammad Yunus will not be fooled by this attempt to shortchange them for their democratic rights. They can see that the trials conducted by the so-called International Crimes Tribunal were never intended to achieve justice or provide any genuine insights into the events of July and August 2025. Rather, their purpose was to scapegoat the Awami League and to distract the world's attention from the failings of Dr. Yunus and his ministers. It's a big statement coming in, a 5-page statement. Sheikh Hasina, the former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, reacting from New Delhi to the verdict that is coming from the ICT, giving her death sentence in this particular case. It's a huge charge she's leveling against Mohammad Yunus, the chief advisor of Bangladesh as well, who has announced elections next year, early next year. But the question really is about democracy, the restoration of democracy, and will Awami League be allowed to contest elections? As of now, that doesn't seem like. It's the first reaction coming in from the Awami League top leader and the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. We had early reaction from other ministers. Concerning the ICT, she has put out the timeline of the entire development over the last few months and how it has been concerning, and there have been human rights abuses by the Yunus government in the past as well. So this is the first statement. At the end, towards the end of the 5-page, she says, "I reject the ICT's other allegations of human rights abuses as equally unevidenced. I am very proud of my government's record of human rights and development. We led Bangladesh to join the International Criminal Court in 2010, gave refuge to hundreds and thousands of Rohingya fleeing persecution in Myanmar, and expanded access to electricity and education, and presided over 450% GDP growth over the 15 years, lifting millions out of poverty." So Sheikh Hasina rejecting the verdict that came in from the Dhaka ICT tribunal, and also at the same time saying that she will continue to wage the battle to restore democracy in Bangladesh.
Right, Aditya, of course, the court noted that the Hasina government did not pay heed to the students' demands, and instead of listening to the students, the then Prime Minister undermined the movement and made derogatory remarks pointing towards the students instead, and which is why the Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal has found the deposed Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina guilty in the case of alleged crimes against humanity committed during last year's student-led agitation. Now, just take us through, Aditya, the 3 charges that she has been found guilty of and the repercussions that this really has on Sheikh Hasina. We do know that, she's 78 years of age. She's living here in India. What does this really mean for the former Prime Minister?
Stranded in New Delhi since 5th August 2024. She took refuge here and India immediately, gave her shelter. She is at a secret location somewhere in New Delhi. That's where she spoke to NDTV in detail about the current circumstances and situation in Bangladesh. She gave a very open and candid interview to me last evening, which we played this morning on NDTV. And this is the day when the big verdict came in from the ICT giving death sentence to the former Prime Minister, perhaps the last democratically elected Prime Minister of Bangladesh. If we can go through the charges against her, the main charge has been to incite violence and in fact give orders to kill the students and the protesters in the July and August so-called uprising and the radical violent protests that were happening, to which there were a lot of firing incidents that happened and finally a lot of killings also that motivated further protests. So the entire charge has been to conspire the killings, to order the killings, and also be the chief architect of the violence that we saw in Bangladesh in July as well as in August. In fact, in this statement, Sheikh Hasina goes to give charges against Dr. Yunus as well, the chief advisor of Bangladesh. At this point in time, she says that our government was democratically elected by the people and we were accountable to them. We sought their votes during elections and took pains to avoid any actions that could harm ordinary citizens. Dr. Yunus, on the other hand, came to power unconstitutionally and with the support of extremist elements. That's what Sheikh Hasina says. She goes on to say, under the rule, every protest from the students, garment workers, doctors, nurses and teachers to professionals has been met with suppression, some of it brutal. Peaceful demonstrations have been shot and killed. Journalists who attempt to report these incidents face harassment and torture. So these are the big charges that Sheikh Hasina in her first statement is levelling against Yunus. She also goes on to say that after taking control, Yunus's forces carried out killings and attacks in Gopalganj and even filed criminal cases against the wounded victims themselves, turning the persecuted into the accused. Then she says across the country, homes, businesses and properties belonging to hundreds of thousands of Awami League leaders and activists have been burnt and destroyed. So a very detailed, aggressive but factual statement given out by the former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina against Mohammad Yunus, giving out details of how there were killings, minorities were attacked as well, but particularly Awami League leaders and activists and cadre have faced repression continuously ever since August last year, when Sheikh Hasina had to flee the country when there was massive violence outside the Prime Minister's residence. So at this point in time, of course, developments happening thick and fast. Just minutes after, there was a huge ruling by the ICT tribunal giving death sentence to Sheikh Hasina. Now Sheikh Hasina hitting back, saying that this is a political witch hunt and she will fight for democracy and fight against the authoritarian regime of Mohammad Yunus.